The Mac Voices update for September 2024. This is Mac Voices. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is the Mac Voices update for September 2024. Yes, I'm getting us in just under the wire. It's been a crazy busy month with business travel along with a lot of other things. We have a lot to talk about, so let's just get straight to it. First up, I've been teasing it for a long time, and if you are paying attention to the Mac Voices website, you know that we have a brand new website. This has been in development for a long time. I just did recently I just did a tour of the site to give you an idea of some of the restructuring that was done and some of the choices we had to make. Suffice it to say, for the purposes of this update, that if you want all those details, go back and watch that tour. It's not that long and it'll give you an idea. But more importantly, check out the website because it has a lot of interesting new features, not the least of which, and in my mind, one of the most important ones, is the new MacVoices blog. Now, I've tried having a MacVoices blog before, but it was always on a separate site, completely separate system. To be honest with you, sometimes it was almost out of sight, out of mind, and I just was not able to keep it up very well. With it being integrated into the MacVoices site, it's there. I remember to do it, but more importantly, it makes it easier for me to publicize it a little bit to you, so that when you stop by the MacVoices site, not only do you see the most recent episode in the featured episode, not only do you see the most recent episodes that we've published, but also you see the latest MacVoices blog postings. Up to now, the main thing that's been in there are appearances on other shows, so that you can keep up with what else I'm doing and what's going on. But I love the idea of the blog simply because I get a lot of emails with people saying, what about this? I heard you talking a little bit about that. Maybe something not even necessarily directly on tech, like music, or things that I like to listen to or watch. And people want to know more about them. So that's what the MacVoices blog will have. You'll be able to see some things that are interesting to me. Sometimes I think they're important articles or maybe podcast episodes of other shows that I think you really should hear about or know about, that they struck me as very important, along with deals on hardware and software as they come up, because I haven't had a good place to distribute that to you. So by all means, check out the new website. It is still at macvoices.com. A special thanks goes out to Mike Potter. He was the one that, if you don't know, he has a web consulting service. He helped build the site for me after a lot of discussions back and forth about what I should have, what we needed, and how to go about it. So if you like what you see, probably about 85 to 95% of the credit goes to Mike. I just do the content. He came up with a terrific design. I'm really pleased with it and proud of it. I hope you enjoy it as well. Let's see. So again, there's a number of things here I want to make sure that I mention. On the MacVoices blog too, don't forget, you can subscribe to that separately. So that will show up in your Safari reader or in your favorite RSS program as a separate feed from the regular MacVoices. So if you want to listen to the show, obviously subscribe through your favorite podcatcher or through Apple's podcasts or whatever. But if you also want to get the blog information, be sure to subscribe there, because that, to me, is one of the most powerful parts of having this new aspect, is for those of you who are interested, to give you an option to actually subscribe and have the information delivered right to you. So the second thing we want to touch on is something that has been in the MacVoices dispatch for the past couple weeks. And I've asked for feedback, and boy, a lot of you gave me feedback. I haven't been able to respond to everyone, but I do want to say thank you to everyone who took the time to write. The issue is tracking by advertisers. It seems that this is something that has become very, very commonplace, and it's even being pushed more by the advertisers, that they want to be able to insert those tracking pixels so they can find out a little bit more about, not necessarily who you personally are, but more about you as a group. I've struggled with this for a while. I've resisted it up to now, but as you've heard us talk about this on Mac Voices on the shows. You've heard me talk about it in the updates over the past probably year. Sponsorship is getting tougher and tougher to get, and the bills keep going up on actually producing the show. So I ask you what you thought about having the tracking pixel inserted, and overwhelmingly everybody was in favor of it if it helps continue the show and support the show, which is obviously the whole basis here. So I'm going to do that. The folks who were not in favor of it, I'm sorry about that. It was overwhelmingly in the other direction for reasons, frankly, for reasons like some folks thought it was already being done. They had no idea that it wasn't. The others said that it's being done everywhere else. Why not here? They'd rather see that than have the show go away. So that's a decision we're making. Now, as I record this right now, it has not been implemented. There are ways that you'll be able to avoid being tracked and still enjoy Mac Voices. Most of those involve logging into something like YouTube or Vimeo. We publish on Vimeo as well, and watching the show there. But at the end of the day, that really doesn't help the sponsorship part. The tracking pixel will only apply to those who subscribe to the audio feeds, simply because that's the way it works. So if you are trying to avoid something like that and not using a VPN, you may want to look at just visiting YouTube on a regular basis to watch. But I hope you will continue to be part of the Mac Voices family. I really want you here, and I apologize that this has just become a fact of life and a necessity to keep things going and try to at least pretend to keep Mac Voices somewhere closer to the black than the red. Because in the last year, things have been definitely sliding toward the red. It was ironic, and I put this in the dispatch recently. It was ironic that the first week that I asked for the feedback on the dispatch, that the Tech Meme Ride Home podcast was asking their listeners about what they thought about some new ad structures because they're facing the same issues. And then, of course, just this last week, we saw iMore discontinue operations. Now, exactly why it was not stated, but for those of us who watch some of this stuff, it's not hard to understand that maybe they too were struggling with the ad situation versus the costs of operating and just couldn't do it anymore. I don't know that for sure, but it seems like a pretty reasonable, logical conclusion, or at least part of the reason that they shut down. So I don't want Mac Voices to go anywhere. I hope you don't either. And again, I apologize if I haven't gotten back to you. I'm working on some of those responses, even if it's just a quick thank you. But I really, really appreciate all the support and the ideas and thoughts and urging one way or the other. It just is what it is. With that, I will remind you about Mac Voices Live. I'm sorry that there have been a couple scheduling interruptions because of business travel. There might be one more coming up soon. We will see. But bottom line is Mac Voices Live is not going anywhere either. And I should circle back to the Mac Voices blog too. That's one thing that if you're a Patreon or Discord member, then I can post a notice there. But if you're not, you will now always be able to go to the Mac Voices page, look at the blog, and see if there's any kind of scheduling update or interruption. I'll always have it posted there rather than trying to distribute out to social media and have people miss it. So one more advantage of having the blog. With that, let's get to this month's support report. And it seems like we're talking about support a lot right now, but it's top of mind in so many ways. And I really, really appreciate everyone who provides support to Mac Voices, whether it's through sharing the show, buying through our affiliates, obviously being a Patreon supporter and having access to the Mac Voices Slack and the Mac Voices Discord and the Mac Voices After Dark shows. If you are subscribed, if you are a Patreon member and are not taking advantage of that, please consider doing so. And if you do not have an invitation to the Slack or the Discord and want one, and you are a Patreon supporter, let me know. It should be an automatic process, but if not, just let me know and I'll make sure we get you signed up and you can continue in there and enjoy some of the conversations we have. So with that, the Patreon support for September. At Platinum, we had Marty J. At Gold, we had Webb B., David G., Robert G., and Tim G. At Silver, we had Baz, Cletus H., Craig A., Eric B., Fallen C., Brett C., Bruce E., John E., Barry M., Chuck P., Andrea S., and Daniel S. And at Bronze, we had Max C., Brian F., Craig H., Clinton M., John M., Patrick N., and Prop P. So as always, a huge thank you to the Patreon supporters. You all are the ones that have kept Mac Voices alive and continue to keep Mac Voices alive. And I really, really appreciate it. And any way you can help us out is greatly appreciated to help pay the bills and keep the shows coming to you. That's all I have for September, but that still feels like quite a lot, so absorb it, check it out. Please, if you have other thoughts on the tracking issue, on the new site, or anything else, drop me an email at chuck@macvoices.com or use the new contact form on the new website, because that assures that it will not get slapped down into spam where I sometimes can miss it. It'll always be tagged as feedback from the Mac Voices site, and therefore I will see it. With that, I'm Chuck Joyner. I'll be back with another update in October, and of course, lots more Mac Voices. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.